All right, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the 23 Personnel Podcast. I'm your host, Spencer, joined by the Michael McDonald. What is up, Michael?
Hey, I don't know. I'm trying to figure it out. What do you know? What's up?
I know it's supposed to rain. It's been
There
supposed
you
to
go.
rain for quite some time, a few days now, and we've got a couple of drops.
Nothing. Jack squat is what we have.
We're into like this severe thunderstorm watch, and there was a huge storm cloud southeast of us, heading east. So
Well, I know where there is weather.
Abilene, or was.
Beautiful Key City. The Key City has had some weather, so the Tech baseball game is currently on a delay, which is fine by me because, yeah, Tech's down 6-0. But they've been on a delay for at least an hour. We're starting
The,
at 9ish, maybe an hour
it
and a
says
half.
suspended, and I don't know
Maybe they called
what
it.
what the like.
Call
Does that
it.
mean they're going to pick it up tomorrow
What's the
in the
most you've
same
ever lost in a coin toss? Call it. Call it.
friend?
He says it really weird. Friendo. Call it. You didn't know you were going to get my. I forgot his name. Anton Chigurh impression today,
Sugar.
did you?
No, I didn't. It was fantastic though. About as good as your Tim Tadlock. No, don't play that. Nope, don't do that again.
Buenos dias.
Buenos dias. Buenas noches. Um, so hopefully tonight goes well, recording wise, technology
Yeah,
wise.
we'll
This
see.
really expensive piece of equipment that I've purchased twice, I guess technically three times, is sitting on my desk collecting dust now, waiting to hear back from their support. I've got the microphone just directly, well, through this interface I got for Christmas, but directly tied in and just avoiding all that nonsense. So if it crashes, it crashes, then we'll just give up and retire. I don't know.
That explains why I couldn't hear the intro. And you just all of a sudden started talking. I thought, oh, okay, it's go time. Here we go.
Well, I was playing it through the media on Riverside. You weren't hearing that?
No.
Oh, well, when we do when we transition into the other topics
I'll
and
just
I'm
chill. That's
quiet,
fine.
you'll know I'm playing something.
I'll follow your lead. I got this.
And if
I'm
it
a
doesn't end up on
professional.
on the recording, then there will be a big gap of silence. I'll know exactly where to drop it in editing. So there we go. If you want to follow us on Twitter, you can follow me at no, not at Spencer. I have nothing at Spencer. At Punts Suck. You can follow the show at 23 Personnel. You can follow Michael at Michael underscore LBK. Y'all know we are proud members of the STP Content Network. You know where all those guys can be found. Michael's rocking a Gambling Gaucho shirt tonight and a 23 Personnel cap. I just have the
I need
23P cap on.
I need some C and Scarlet merch, ladies. If they have merch, I feel bad for saying it, and not having any. So I need to figure that out.
And then I need one of those Dinger Derby cage
Ah,
jackets.
of course. Yes, I think those are very limited edition.
I think there's one.
Kind of like our caps. I think they're very limited
Yeah,
edition.
this was a run of one of one for
Collector item.
each of our caps.
Yeah, this
Um,
baby's going on eBay someday, and it's gonna get some clicks, maybe.
sure.
Game
Um,
game worn 23 personnel hat, $2,000 a pop. What do you think about that?
I would love it. Would
Game
love it.
worn, and I'm selling it once I say that I'm leaving the podcast.
So never?
Do you get the reference?
No, I guess not.
No. Davion Harmon was selling his game worn Tech jerseys for like $2,000 a pop,
You're welcome for
and his
that,
OU
Harmon.
jerseys.
You're welcome. I can't with these kids. I mean, I get it. I get it.
These kids.
I'm just kind of over it. Uh,
I interrupted you talking about the network. I'm sorry.
no, I was going to talk about what we're going to talk about tonight. We got baseball. We got football. I'm peeved enough with basketball to tell you that Bacho's going to Louisiana Tech,
End of
and
basketball.
and
You're
that's that.
updated.
That's about right. There was some weirdness today with a guy with 200 followers trying to break that Pop Isaacs was in the portal. But then if you go through his history, like he apparently had a blue check mark and had it taken away or whatever. I don't know. 200 followers trying to say that Pop Isaacs in the portal. Like, okay, dude. Believe when I see it. Football spring game this past weekend. I was not there. I watched it. Besides, we'll talk about the format of a spring football game. Michael, because I've got some thoughts on that. Lots of baseball to talk about because we're in the stretch here. Um, yeah. So, yeah. With all that, I say we just go ahead and jump into baseball after
I'm ready.
we play the bumper. I don't know if you're going to hear it, but I'm going to play it.
It's cool. I'll just chill silently. It'll be great.
All right, here we go. Michael, can I confess something to you?
Please do.
I found out 3 seconds into that why you couldn't hear it.
Not
On
something
the
wasn't plugged in.
no. On the media panel here in Riverside, there's a preview section, which if I play it, I can hear it as a producer. And the live section is it would broadcast to everybody. It's set to preview right now.
Oh,
So
okay.
there will be a perfectly timed baseball bumper length of silence. It'll be great for me to just go and drop that in the recording on the back end. But anybody watching now and Michael just had to imagine it until and until we get to the end here, until we get to the full on produced piece. I'm gonna go ahead and switch it to live. If it plays again, okay, it won't play. So we'll be good to go for football here in like an hour when we're ready for that and what we learned and wrap it up with our closing. But I'm still trying to figure because all that kind of stuff I did over here on the board, man. There were buttons, there were color coded. I just reach over here and push the right color, and it was good to go. And it would just play and as it's supposed to. And I'm still trying to figure out how to work Riverside, which I guess is a good thing that we didn't cancel yet because we're leaning full into this thing now that we're not using the board. I did spend an inordinate amount of time with their chat person for support yesterday,
Yes.
trying to figure out. He said, "Oh, the error message you're getting is because your board isn't being recognized by your computer, and or there is an issue with your browser settings." And he's like, "And here's how you reset all that." I was like, "Okay, great, I did that." But he's like, "I really can't help you with the board. You have to contact Rode." I was like, "Okay, I've already submitted a ticket to Rode, and they're notoriously slow because they're in Australia, mate."
Oh, that's a
Anyways,
different. It's a different time of day there. Did you know that?
it's a different day.
The toilets flush a different direction.
That too. Red Raiders are 29-13 on the season, although they were in danger of dropping to 29-14 if the game was going to be continued to play out the way it was down at Abilene because they were getting rocked by the Wildcats. Michael, how you letting that happen? Going into tonight, Texas Tech was 66th in RPI. They were dropped from 62nd previously. And I'm going to take just a second here to rant on RPI because I think it's a just absolute garbage platform to judge a baseball team. Because apparently, when you defeat an opponent, they're like they take a hit on on all their metrics, whatever. And ultimately, basically what I'm trying to get is it hurts your strength of schedule to win the games on your schedule. The better you do, the further down you push your opponents, the weaker you make your own strength of schedule because you're winning your damn games. Where does that make sense? Or am I just completely off? Like, am I misunderstanding this? Because it seems like you win. This is what I picked up from something was in a chat today, that winning actually hurts your strength of schedule, which is a major piece of this because how other teams are doing continues to put Tech's number, their RPI, in flux here because, I mean, you've lost one Big 12 series and you're the second best RPI conference in the country. And granted, your non-conference hasn't been great, but it's in the 60s. And yet your team rankings, according to those people that watch all these games, have you as high as the 10th ranked team in the country. But RPI says you're 66th. Make that make sense, Michael. Make it make sense.
I can't make it make sense because, I mean, I was looking into this a little bit, not to jump too far ahead, but ACU is, what are they, 80 something in RPI? They're 89th, but they're currently fourth in their own conference. And Sam Houston is first in their own conference. They're 23 and 18. Tech plays Sam Houston, so I was looking them up a little bit. Sam Houston's RPI is abysmal. It's 129. But they're first in their own conference, including beating ACU in a series and beating Grand Canyon in a series, who Tech played recently and who is second in their respective conference. So I don't get why Sam Houston is 129th, but then Grand Canyon and ACU are both 89th-ish, 90th-ish. I mean, Sam Houston played Baylor. They played Texas. They played Kansas State. They played LSU. They played some pretty good teams. But they're 129th in RPI. RPI does not make sense to me.
And you worry about RPI for your postseason seeding.
Yes.
And right
it
now
seems to be the big factor, one of the big determining factors, like your net rating.
Well, right, because right now, if you go on your team rankings, you are a super regional host. At 10th in the country, you're a super regional host. On your RPI, you're scrapping for a number 3 seed in the regional. Like, that disparity is obnoxious and needs to be fixed. Because I get that there's an eye test and like there's some kind of, biases played into here's how we're going to make polls and rankings and all that kind of stuff. I understand that. And you want to have some kind of metrics attached to it. And RPI is meant to address that. But it's trash, man. It's trash. So in the Big 12, after this weekend's series win versus Baylor, where you dropped an RPI, again, make that make sense. No, I'm sorry. You moved up 4 spots after going 4-1 this week. F you, RPI. You are tied for 4th in Big 12 standings. Again, we're going to harp on this until it's not true. You've lost 1 Big 12 series, and you're tied for 4th. That's Oklahoma State, who's first. Sorry, there's technically second. Oklahoma State has lost like 3 straight series. Make that make sense. It doesn't. It doesn't make any sense. They've already played 18 games. They actually don't.
Doesn't make sense.
They don't play a series like they've got. Sorry, they have two conference opponents left, and they won't play them for 2 weeks because they got way out ahead of everybody else. Whereas we've had some weekends off and we've played non-conference opponents. Oklahoma State has not. And then West Virginia has played 12 games. Again, like they're way behind. They've got 1, They've got 4 conference series remaining starting this weekend. So first in the Big 12 according to win percentage in conference games is West Virginia, then Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Texas and Texas Tech are technically tied at 4th, although they would have the head-to-head since they have the series sweep versus the Red Raiders. Oklahoma's bouncing back. They're up to 6th. Their RPI is 50th, although at one point in time they were 9th in the conference. And then TCU on the outside edge of who could conceivably compete for a Big 12 title. They're at 7th. Their RPI is 52nd. So between West Virginia at 1st, they've got 8 conference wins, and TCU at 7th, who has 7 conference wins. The biggest difference in all that's the number of losses. Really, this thing is going to come up to just how well you perform down the stretch here. West Virginia, they've got, they're 23rd in RPI. They've got 4 conference series left. They are in Waco this weekend. Home versus Oklahoma. Home versus Texas Tech. In Austin versus Texas. If Oklahoma continues to play the way they've been playing recently, which is a lot better than they were, if Texas Tech can figure out how to not give up 1,700 stolen bases this weekend and play some decent defense, and if Texas isn't actually broken, West Virginia could tumble here. Or they could solidify themselves in first place. Oklahoma State in a couple weeks, they host Kansas State and then finish in Norman for the Bedlam series. Oklahoma State is 24th in RPI, so West Virginia 23rd, Oklahoma State 24th, Kansas State 67th, right up there next to you. Obviously, he's going to host Texas Tech this weekend, go on the road to Stillwater, and then back home versus TCU. Again, not the easiest 3 remaining series left on their schedule. I mean, they've got 2 of the teams that were picked to compete for the title for the conference. Kansas State's done well with their schedule so far. And then TCU, again, if they can figure it out, could also send Kansas State reeling. Texas in Fort Worth, then at Lawrence, and then home versus West Virginia. Texas Tech, their schedule at Kansas State, at West Virginia, home versus Kansas. Oklahoma, home versus Kansas, at West Virginia, home versus Oklahoma State. TCU, home versus Texas, home versus Baylor, at Kansas State. It's a wild wrap to this regular season. Really could see any number of teams winning it between West Virginia, Oklahoma State, Kansas State, Texas, Texas Tech, Oklahoma, and maybe even TCU.
Yeah.
Right?
I don't remember one being quite like this, but I guess maybe they're like this more often than I've noticed because, as you know, huge baseball. I'm always got the pulse.
Well, at least in recent memory for me and for Texas Tech, it's been like Texas Tech and Oklahoma State, right? Or Oklahoma State, Texas, and Texas Tech. And it's coming down to like just a series here, and you got to figure out like if you win that series and if they lose that, or if you sweep here, whatever. Right now for Texas Tech to really be putting themselves into that kind of conversation, you really need to win like 8 of your last 9 conference games. And it feels so ridiculous to be hurt so badly by a sweep, one conference loss. And you're staring down like one conference series loss, and now we need to win out to be in the race for a regular season title, where teams like Oklahoma State have lost multiple series, and they're relatively comfortable up in their spot. West Virginia, they have so many games left. I don't even know what to think about how they could finish. Not that I mean they've done well, and they've got the opportunity to prove it. Texas Tech in terms of
played 12 games. Good night.
They've got 12. Like I said, Oklahoma State, who's out in front of everybody else, they've got 18. Most everybody else has played 15. Baylor's the only other team that's played 18. They're 6-12, which is crazy because as bad as they sound, their technically one win behind TCU, Oklahoma, Texas. I don't know, because Texas and Texas Tech are at 8 wins. For the Red Raiders, for the rankings, at least for this week, Baseball America has you at highest at 10th, Perfect Game at 13th, D1 Baseball 14th, National College Baseball Writers Association is 15th, USA Today 15, and College Baseball 22. You went 2-1 this past weekend versus Baylor. You moved the Sunday game up from Sunday to Saturday into a doubleheader, trying to avoid some weather that unfortunately did not end up happening. Obviously, you can't really say like the doubleheader played, the most into deciding that game was going to go the way it did. But you wish you had played on Sunday. It felt like you had the opportunity to kind of slow down the momentum that Baylor was building at the end of the first game, which would have been the Saturday game, to then stop it going into Sunday with the day break. But you win Friday, you win the first game Saturday, then you lose on Sunday. A sweep there would have done you a whole heck of a lot of good. That would have moved you up into, I guess, a tie for third, but in a much better position going down the stretch. And not being able to close that out against the last place team in the Big 12 hurts. Sunday pitching, man, or just pitching decisions in general, right? I'm not going to go like game by game or inning by inning, but one thing that really sticks out, and I think a lot of people are going to ask questions about, having Beckel in up by 7 runs in the first game on Saturday makes no damn sense. Those innings should have gone to Ethan Coombs, to Jace Lopez, to any number of guys that have played and given you some meaningful innings, but aren't your best arm out of the bullpen. Now, I'm not saying that playing Beckel on Sunday would have won you the game. That's not what I'm trying to. I'm just saying, like, throwing your best reliever out into a game where you're up by 7 runs makes no sense.
I wouldn't say beef, but you had some questions last week too with some of the.
And it's easy for me to sit back
decisions.
here on Tuesday night and poke holes into decisions that are like, well, look what happened. Like, they lost, so obviously these decisions were bad. Understand, like, I'm aware of my position, saying like that was a questionable call, but I don't know like what else you can say about putting Beckel in with a 7-run lead. You need that kind of arm. I mean, he was going to pitch on Saturday regardless. Like, he's actually been pitching Friday and Sunday. You had a hell of an outing from Molina, so you didn't need him on Friday. Molina had at least a season best, not a career best for him, 7 innings, and just was phenomenal on Friday night. You didn't need you didn't need Beckel's work and innings then. Anyways, I don't know, man. You're in the middle of a suspended game versus Abilene Christian tonight. You're losing that one 6-0. I hated it when it happened, and it was easy to point out when another team like the Aggies were doing it. But I'm getting to the point where, like, I'm kind of over the RPI system so much that I'm just like, screw the optics, just cancel every game that's going to hurt you. Like, don't play Abilene Christian, don't play Sam Houston State, just play your conference games and just be done with it. Because right now, even winning these games, they're doing you no good. It literally only hurt you to play these games, and you need everything you can get.
All they can do is get your players some experience, but it doesn't seem like it's going to move the needle on the analytics side of things and playoff breakdowns and where you may land, where you may end up. And then, yeah, like you said, I think it's after the Sam Houston series that Abilene Christian returns. They come back to Lubbock.
Mm-hmm. For that game that was canceled a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, so like you said, Maybe just give the guys a little extra time off
Just don't come
during
back.
that week.
Just don't come back. You're not welcome in Lubbock.
Just rest a little bit. Maybe there's going to be a really bad haboob that lands in Lubbock during that week. That could very well happen.
Guys, I can already see on the forecast it's going to be bad weather that day. Just don't worry about it.
It's going to be bad. That's why there was a double header before a perfectly normal February day in April. The next day this weekend. Sunday was fine. I mean, it was fine enough.
Had it been raining and 40 degrees, yeah, it would have been miserable.
But it was probably no worse than with how windy it was Saturday. Saturday was probably worse. Play 2 games in that versus just one, get it over with, and then play another one Sunday when it's a little chillier. It's fine.
Again, it's easy to look back and say, look, it didn't actually rain on Sunday.
Of course.
Why didn't we play that game?
I know. Why didn't we pitch that guy? Why did we pitch that guy? That's the beauty of having a podcast. Just 3 days later,
Monday
just
morning
stuff out there.
Monday morning quarterback, Tuesday night pitching coach, whatever you want to call it. Just because like you're doing so well in some of these stats, I want to continue to give like these national stats updates with just how we've done a couple weeks now. Wow, throwing my stuff. It did take you a while to do it versus Baylor, but you did turn a double play, and you are now second in the country in double plays turned. Obviously, you're first in the Big 12 there. You probably could have grabbed first had the opportunity presented itself. It's not like you missed out on a bunch versus Baylor. I just didn't feel like there were a whole lot of opportunities. You're still scoring just a ton of runs. I think we talked about it a lot. I think you scored 24 runs in the first 2 games versus Baylor. You're up to 8th in the country and runs scored, first in the Big 12. You're slipping a little bit in sacrifice flies. You're down tied for second. Come on, guys, get that together. 6th in the country in walks, second in the Big 12. 8th in batting average, first in the Big 12. Second in total number of hits, first in the Big 12 there. 12th in on-base percentage, but you're still first in the conference there. You're still second fewest in the Big 12, and your batter striking out. West Virginia is first. You'll see them in a couple weeks. Your fielding percentage continues to climb in the right direction. You're up to 224th in the country. So, not dead last. There are Power 4 teams behind you. Individually, Nolan Hester is 4th in the country in walks and 12th in on-base percentage. There were a couple of at-bats this weekend that he was a little aggressive on, and like, again, hindsight, you're like, hey man, as a leadoff guy, we need you to be a little more patient. We need you to, draw more pitches here. Which hurts his on-base percentage. But had he jumped over, like, I'm thinking about the time. I think it was a Saturday game. He came in. He was the first batter up to a new pitcher. Bases were loaded. First pitch, he swung and had a pop fly out to center. So one, you can say, hey, we need the leadoff guy to be more patient and to work more pitches. Second, or on the flip side, you're like, as a leadoff guy, if you're able to jump all over the first pitch and just be super aggressive, I think that is even more damaging than like, we're going to run his pitch count up. So like, I don't have any fault with Nolan Hester in his weekend. I mean, he's so dang good. Kevin Bazell, first in the country in doubles. It's almost automatic. He gets up there and hits a double. Gavin Mash.
There it is.
I'm still not like in love with that one, but Gavin Cash tied for 3rd in the country in hits. And we talked about it last week, how he was far enough out of the lead for home runs. Like, well, he's still got some time to compete. Well, after this weekend, he's moved up to country in home runs. First in the Big 12. That guy from Florida, Jack Caglianone, whatever. He's got 23 on the season so far. Gavin Cash Mash has 20, so he's still a few behind him. But he's second in the country in RBI, and not to Caglianone from Florida. So
I would like to submit.
He's doing more with his home runs than the Gator is.
I would like to submit a name for a Gavin Cash home run.
Okay.
Cash Blast.
What about Cash Smash, which I think is on some of the tweets? But
that's hard for me to say.
Cash Smash. Cash Smash.
Cash Smash. Merry
So
Cash Smash.
is that kind of playing off of the Germ Blast?
Yeah, I guess it is.
Germ Blast. Cash
Not even
Smash.
not even intentionally.
Cash Blast. Troubling stats. You're still giving up just a ton of successful stolen base attempts. Baylor was 4 for 5 this weekend, so now your opponents are 62 of 77 on the season, while Texas Tech is 25 for 31. So a little more than twice as many times has somebody attempted a stolen base against you, and it still holds true. Your higher slugging percentage reduces the number of stolen base attempts or opportunities you're going to have. So there's that. You are 16th in the country nationally and slugging percentage. Those two things being the same thing. Around the conference, your pitching has given up the second most number of walks, but turning in the right direction, your pitching has now given up only the third most home runs. It had been first for a while. Your pitching staff have given up the most home runs. Slowed down the past couple of weeks. You dropped to third most. So what is that, seventh? You've given up the seventh. Anyways. We talked about the 4-1 week. You did sweep the Tuesday, Wednesday midweek versus Grand Canyon. Again, this was a team that you were looking forward to, especially on the return trip. You didn't fare well against them last year, and I think these were the first wins that a Tim Tadlock team has had against Grand Canyon. And they've got a couple dudes on their roster. They've got a couple kids of big leaguers or guys that are projected to go high in the draft. I think their shortstop is a potential first rounder. Their center fielder was a Homer Bush Jr. It's projected to go pretty highly. You beat them 6-1 on Tuesday, 11-6 on Wednesday. So you took care of business there again with their RPI, and you being at home didn't really do anything for you there, except for didn't have you tumble. Because had you lost one of those games, your RPI would be like 80s.
Oh, sure.
It's just so screwed. The Baylor series, you, like I said, won Friday, and then the first game on Saturday. At one point on Friday, because you had what was that? There was a 5-run first inning on Friday night. No, that was Saturday. That was the first game Saturday. But you did score first in the Friday game, 1 in the first, 1 in the third, and then 6. You had a 6th spot in the fourth, 1 in the fifth, and then 1 more in the 8th to win that one 10-1. Your pitching on the night, there it is. Mason Molina went 7 innings, gave up 2 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 12 strikeouts on 106 pitches. So those are at least season highs for Molina in terms of innings pitched, strikeouts, and pitches thrown. He moves at 4-2 on the season. Andrew Devine came in to finish the game, went 2 innings, 1 hit, 1 run, and 2 strikeouts.
Keith mentioned in his write-up that Molina retired 14 guys in a row at one point.
That's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Pretty
We
good
were talking about
streak.
we were talking about Ryan Free. Was it last weekend when he went 15 in a row with 9 strikeouts in that mix? And that's a reliever. But you needed to start like this.
This on the web.
Shut up. My watch is trying to talk to us. It wants to join in on the conversation.
Your watch can talk?
Well, yeah. I activated Siri on some level.
Oh, okay.
It's always listening. So whenever it's like,
It is.
oh, I have something to say here, it just jumps right in.
Yeah.
You wanted to see this kind of bounce back because Molina did not have a great outing last weekend. I think he went 2 innings or whatever it was. And you're like, man, our starting pitching, we went from having 6 bona fide starters and like, you got nobody. And then he comes out and saves your bullpen, throws 7 innings like he did. And then you got to a guy that's been good for you in the past, but has been a little, I wouldn't say struggling, but Hasn't been the guy you've called on in high leverage situations. Andrew Devine had him come in and be able to close that game out. To allow your Kyle Robinsons, your Brendan Gurtons, your Brandon Beckles to hold off for the rest of the weekend. Saturday, the first game on Saturday, you jumped out 5 in the first inning. You added one more in the second. Baylor did score, so they tied the game in the top of the 6th. They had scored 1 run in the second, and then 5 in the 6th to get it to 6 all. And then when you came up to bat, the bottom of the 6th, you put up 4 in the 6th, 1 in the 7th, and then 3 in the 8th to get up to 14-6. Baylor then put up 3 in the 9th to make it a little more interesting, but you end up winning this game 14-9. Trenton Parrish was your starter. He goes 5 innings, gave up 6 hits, 4 runs, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. Ryan Free went 2 innings. Didn't have his best outing, but does get the win. 2 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, both of those earned, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. Then Brandon Beckel comes in, just absolutely tanks his ERA. 2 innings, not really tanks, but 2 innings, 3 runs, all 3 of those earned, 2 walks to 5 strikeouts. Speaking of ERA, he is sitting at, let me pull it up real quick. He is at 1.88.
So this really tanked him.
Well, after the Stanford game, he was down to 0.79. Now that was a couple of appearances ago, before then. So he pitched at Oklahoma and it got up to 1.09. Then he pitched in the Tuesday game in what would have been a midweek bullpen session for him. He pitched and got it down to 1.01. But then those 3 earned runs, man. In the game, he had a 13.5 ERA. But for the season, he's at 1.88. 28 2/3 innings pitched, surrendered only 6 earned runs, 44 strikeouts to 10 walks. Even after that outing, like I would still count on Beckel every day of the week, man. Free, like I said, didn't have his greatest performance on Saturday, but for him on this season, he's got 29 innings, so he's actually just a little bit ahead, 1 out ahead of Beckel. He's got a 3.10 ERA, and that gap, like, it feels big in the numbers, but like he's so good. He's given up 20 hits and 10 earned runs over 29 innings. So you leave Saturday, the first game Saturday. You've scored 24 runs. You're in a great position to win this. Like, you've already won this series. You want the sweep, and it goes back to something I know Keith has talked about it. He's repeated it a couple of times, but something that the team has talked about, Tadlock has talked about. That championship teams win on Sunday, and while this wasn't a game on Sunday, it was a Sunday game. You lacked the killer mentality to put this team away and lose this game, the third game of the series. 6-4. Baylor does score first, so add that to the trend of a team that scores first ends up winning this game. They score 2 in the third. You tie it in the bottom of the 4th. You get 1 in the 3rd, 1 in the 4th. Baylor gets 1 in the 6th. You take the lead. No, you don't. You tie it in the 7th. 2, 3. Yeah. 1, 2. Yeah. You tie it in the bottom of the 7th. 3-all. I can do math. Baylor then responds with 3 more of their own. On the top of the 8th, you get 1 back in the bottom of the 8th, and then that ends the scoring. Kyle Robinson takes the loss here as he was on the mound. He went 4 2/3 in relief there, gave up 7 hits, 3 runs, all 3 of them earned. So those were the ones in the 8th. 1 walk and 4 strikeouts. Jacob Rogers got your start. He only went 2 1/3, 3 hits, 2 runs. Ethan Coombs comes in and goes 2/3 of an inning, records 2 strikeouts. So those are his 2 outs. And then Brendan Gurton comes in for the last inning and a third of the Sunday, what would have been the Sunday game, the second game on Saturday. 1 in the third inning, 3 hits, 1 run not earned, 1 strikeout. So Gurton's role, I don't know if you would have needed him any other point of the weekend, because he's been pretty good, more of as like a long reliever and kind of a high leverage guy. There wasn't really any other opportunities or any other situations or scenarios that you would call on him. But him going from a weekend starter to taking up an inning is kind of a pretty stark contrast. So you didn't hold them there. Kyle Robinson has been a little inconsistent, and I think that's been the name of the frustrations this season. You've been so young, and your pitchers have been just inconsistent at times when you really needed them to, and they're just like found ways. No, sorry, that was gonna sound really harsh. You haven't found ways to lose. You've just not been at the top of your game, and it has come back to bite you. Let's put it that way. Because it's not, it's perfectly acceptable to not be perfect every game or every outing or every inning or every pitch that you throw, right? Sometimes you can get into a lot of trouble, and the score get really lopsided with just one pitch or one swing of the bat, right? Like if you walk a couple guys, or if there's an error that has nothing to do with you, like as a pitcher, you did well, you got a ground ball, and there's a fielding error or a throwing error behind you, and there get guys on the base paths, and then you miss one pitch, and a batter just destroys it and puts up 3 runs. You're like, well, that has nothing to do with me, but now the game's at hand, and we're going to lose it. It's all that to say, it's like it's difficult to put that like at the feet of like, hey, you need to be perfect every outing. So when a guy like Kyle Robinson comes in and gives up 3 runs, like he's been really good at times this season, but also has struggled. And that's just going to highlight some of the inconsistency you see. And it hasn't just been Robinson, right? I'm not saying it's him. It hasn't just been Mason Molina or Gurton or Beckel giving up a couple of runs and his ERA ballooning to 1.8. Right? It's just, I don't know, man. This is the game. Like this game is weird that way. This season's been weird that way. Like I'm just gonna continue to harp it until it's not true. Like you've lost 1 series, and you're
It sure
fourth.
feels like a lot worse than that.
Yeah, you just
On the road.
Yeah, you got swept in Austin, and that the way that they keep losing is not helping either. But it's been, I think, really frustrating, and this is something that we talked about last week with Rob, like that you haven't been able to win that Sunday game and get the sweeps you set yourself up for. Had you won Friday and Sunday but lost on Saturday, or lose Friday then win Saturday, Sunday, we probably would have felt a lot better. Like, oh man, if we could just kind of figure out like the starting rotation or the early weekend, relievers situation, that's one thing. But with it happening a lot last season, not being able to win Sunday, and now this year too, you're like, you've set yourself up to sweep so many times, you just haven't been able to close it. It's a little frustrating. And
Yeah,
frustrating
I mean,
just how detrimental it's been, right? Like I said, you've lost 1 series and you're 4th.
Right.
5th.
Like, even versus Iowa, Tech wasn't able to get the sweep. I know that doesn't count, but
Well, you didn't sweep
it's
like
just
North
another-
Dakota State either.
Correct, but that was one of those where you lost the first one.
Yeah.
Then
So-
you have the other 2.
This weekend, Kansas State. They are 26-16, 9-6 in the Big 12, 67th in RPI, so right there behind you at 66th. They were 79th in RPI last week, where they went 2-2. They won 2 games, Michael, lost 2 games, and jumped up 12 freaking spots in the RPI. You know
and
how they did it?
how'd they do it?
They won 2 games on the road. Because
Well, hang on.
that's where it really makes sense.
Keith had posted in Discord just earlier. West Virginia, we said they were 23, I think, when we started this podcast. They're already 18. in RPI, and I'm trying to find out why. I guess they beat somebody that matters tonight.
Were they playing Pitt tonight?
Well, they lost. Oh
So
no,
wait.
never mind. No, he doesn't. He didn't say. Let's see. Let's see.
All right.
His post before that was different.
You said West Virginia. Yeah, they're 30-11, so they would have won their game. Who'd they play tonight? Pitt. No, that was last
Okay.
week. Penn State. They beat Penn State tonight, 14-2 at home. Now let's see. Is Penn
No,
State any
we're
good in
both like,
RPI?
okay, who's Penn State?
Penn State any good? I don't think they are, but let's go check it out. Wake Forest is tumbling in RPI. They're not under 4. Wake Forest, one of those like sneaky teams. Like whenever I'm doing like the statistical updates and all that kind of stuff, like they've got guys at the top all over the place, and they lead a bunch of different categories. They're one of those teams like you wouldn't know it as not following that team or that conference. You know, from a Big 12 perspective, like they're probably pretty dang good.
Oh,
All right,
probably.
I'm still scrolling in the RPI and I have not found Penn State.
They are one. I found them. They are 115.
Now what in the frick?
Is this right?
They,
Is this right? Is he?
they're
messing
gonna
with
jump.
us?
They're gonna jump up 5 spots for beating a 115th RPI team at home.
Hang on a second. Let me make sure the context is right here. Did I misinterpret this?
Why did I just
Have I
close it?
started something?
You did. No, because now I'm getting a little mad.
Yeah. Well, I don't blame you. Let's see. Okay, so it's in the stickball channel.
I don't know if it's been updated on the NCAA website. They're still shown as 23rd. Where are they? Where are they seeing the live RPI? Oh, here we go. Live RPI from Warren Nolan. This is great. West Virginia up to 18th. 5 spots. Warren Nolan, you should just shut your whole damn site down. Nobody cares. You suck at this.
Man. Yeah.
5 spots for beating a team 100 spots lower than them at home.
Well, they beat the crap out of them too, 14-2.
Make it make sense, Michael.
I can't, man. I cannot make it make sense. A Tuesday midweek game. Just a one-off game. Is it a quote-unquote rival?
No, because they weren't playing Pitt. Who they've got
Is
like
there a
8
rival factor?
8 non-conference games against them. Sam Houston has been smacking the crap out of A&M. They're up 8-2. But say that we make fun of them. We're also down by 6 runs.
Okay, so what are we talking about? We're talking about Kansas State?
Hold on, I'm posting in the. Okay. Yeah, we were talking about Kansas State and how you need to win this one. They are, like I said, right there at the RPI with you. So, assuming since this series is on the road, if Texas Tech were to win these games, you would get a bump. But I think the past few minutes of us talking and looking this up just goes to show that RPI makes no damn sense, and we really shouldn't pay attention to it. We're the 10th best team in the country, and Kansas State's unranked, so we should go in and whip their ass.
There we go.
I'm saying.
That's the analysis. That's what I was looking for.
So they go 2-2 last week and move up 12 spots in the RPI. They lost to an 88th RPI Wichita State, and then won a road series versus UC Irvine, who is 44th, 2-1. So credit, they won a series on the road against an RPI 44 team. But that feels like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, oh, look, RPI matters because they beat an RPI good team, and now look, the RPI matters.
If you say that it matters enough, it matters.
It's like BPI and net rankings and quad 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is in baseball now.
It's like believing. It's like believing Bitcoin's worth actual money.
It
If enough people believe it, it matters, and it's worth it.
Well, everything is like that. If you want to get into some macroeconomics,
You really
Michael.
want to?
Like supply and
Are we
demand.
getting into religion, Spencer? Where are we going?
No. I'm
I'm
talking
just
about like supply and demand. Like if we're talking about the value of
It's
something,
true.
it's only what somebody's willing to pay for it.
Yeah.
Uh
Hotel rooms in the Permian are no longer $500 a night.
no, they're 479.
Steal. Gonna go to
Uh,
that Bennigan's over in Monahans. By God. Is it
So-
Bennigan's?
Are they still having like locations open? Who knows?
There's like, I think the one in Monahans is one of the few Bennigan's in the continental U.S. I think they even tried to. I swear I looked this up on the.
Do they still
podcast.
have a? Do they still have like a Hollywood Video too, or a Blockbuster? They just 20 years behind.
I think, or ahead. Streets ahead's where they are.
Coming back, man. We just don't know it
I
yet.
think there was a Bennigan's in Dubai or something, something crazy.
That always reminds me of I can't remember what movie this was, but and I'm going to get the actress. I think it was Jennifer Aniston. She works for a restaurant like Bennigan's, and she's talking about like how much flair she has to have on her apron.
Yeah, it's
And
Office Space.
Office Space. Okay, good.
The restaurant was called Tchotchkes.
All right, which makes sense that you would have a bunch of crap on your apron.
Yeah.
Kansas State, not great starting pitching. I'm looking at the guys they've got with a bunch of innings that they throw at a bunch. They've got two guys that have started 10 games. Sorry, yeah, and one of them started 11. Fajardo, whatever you want to call it, his ERA is 4.99 with a WHIP of 1.5. Opponents batting 260 against him. Owen Barema, 4.37 ERA with a WHIP of just under 1.5. Opponents are batting 280. The rest of their bullpen, I mean, they've got a guy that only one other guy that has, two other guys that have opponent batting averages around 100. Corey Cater. My contacts are decided right now is the time to mess up. He's thrown 3 innings. So the other guy has thrown 30 innings. So this is a guy you probably need to pay attention to. Tyson Neighbors. 30 and a third innings, 0.89 ERA, a WHIP of 0.6. 18 appearances on the season, but no starts. You could also see Jackson Wentworth as a starter. He's gone 8 starts this season, 8.72 ERA. That's more like a midweek type of guy. But not great starting pitching from the Wildcats. Let's see. They've only got 2 batters above 300 in terms of average. Brady Day is batting 351. Cash Rugely, whatever you want to call it, 307. And then one guy really close to 300, Nick Godwin at 295. Their leader in home runs. They've got 2 guys that have 10 or more home runs. Nick Godwin has 10. Roberto Pena has 11. But then that gets kind of spread out. What they're really good at, Michael, is taking walks. They lead the country and the conference in walks. Brady Day's got 38. Cash Rugely, 37. Brendan Jones, 36. Nick Godwin's got 30. This team just works a bunch of walks. And then the other thing, let's see if I can get over to it. Stolen bases. I think they're up there too. Cole Johnson is 8 of 13 on the season. Roberto Pena 7 of 7. Brady Day 7 of 10. They've got some guys that can steal a base on you. Their team defense 975, which is just a few ticks higher than Texas Tech's. So they're not gonna give you a whole bunch of free passes there on the season. They've committed a total of 37 errors, which I think Texas Tech has done that in a weekend. So you need to play
Pretty
clean
error-free
baseball.
baseball.
Yeah, they have played some error-free baseball. I think we look at Kansas State being solid and what they've done this season. There's not like one thing you can point to like, oh, they're really bad here. Starting pitching, maybe, or just their pitching in general. Offensively, they look to be pretty sound. It's just one of those things like you're going to be on the road. You need to play better on the road this year, and you need to win too. You need to win too. So after that, you don't have a midweek next week, unless Abilene Christian gets thrown in here somewhere. The schedule has you hosting Sam Houston. I say you just write this one off and you cancel it. They are 23 and 18.
Well, but before we get to that, it's just
Okay.
dawned on me. I think the good Lord doesn't want us to play Abilene Christian.
Why is that?
Well, both games have been canceled for weather so far.
That's true. That's true.
And
Because the one that
in
was supposed
Lubbock and one was in Abilene. And still weather.
I'm gonna put that in the Slack chat, but I'm gonna give you credit.
Yeah, I don't think he wants us to face off against the Wildcats. You've heard of RPI? Well, how about GOD? That's what I go by. That's who's in my strike zone. I'm trying to think of other things. What else could I say? That's who I've got in the bullpen.
I don't know why that was making me think of those ridiculous ad reads they kind of placed into Major League, like the very beginning, like pieces of like embedded ads into movies and paid placements and that kind of thing, like when they had the American Express. Anyways, it just made me think of like that sounded for whatever reason like there was a embedded ad into Major League. I fully acknowledge that I railed on the Aggies for doing it, but man, I'm so sick of RPI. I'm just like, just cancel this series with Sam Houston next weekend. 23 and 18, 15 and 6. They are 129th in RPI. Will do nothing but hurt you. They're first in the WAC. Grand Canyon is second. Abilene Christian's fourth, you said, in the WAC?
Yes. They have lost to both Grand Canyon and Sam Houston.
No, they won the Grand Canyon series.
Ah, crap. Sam Houston beat them both. That's what it was.
Okay. But they did lose 7-6 to Baylor. They lost 7-5 at Texas. They did beat Kansas State in a neutral site, and they won the series against Abilene Christian. But we'll get to them next week. This week, our eyes are on ducking Abilene Christian because of our good Lord and the weather.
That's it.
And then looking ahead to this weekend, Kansas State, where you need to get at least 2 games.
Got to win on the road. Has not gone well on the road.
No.
Let me see. Let's go back.
You've gotten better. You won the series against Oklahoma on the road.
3-6 on the road this year.
And your first road win was at Stanford, and then you took 2 more from Oklahoma. So you had a little 3-game win streak there, but then couldn't close it out on Sunday. Another opportunity to sweep a series and missed it. All right.
Tonight. Should have started the game sooner.
Maybe. You ready to talk about some spring football?
Oh boy, am I. I really don't have. Yes, I am.
All right. This should actually play this time, but let's get into some football. Maybe to play. It's circling. Come on. I believe in you. Okay. Well, it doesn't want to play, so we'll just jump that in later. All right. So the spring game, Michael, was this weekend. You were in attendance, were you not?
I was there.
How
I
was the in person atmosphere? How was the experience?
you know, parking sucked, but it was really cool to see a full stadium. I mean, I don't know if I'd call it full. I'm sure on a Friday night it's got a lot more people there, but that was always the kind of one negative about having a spring game at a 70 stadium. It just felt super sparse.
Mm-hmm.
So having it at Lowry Field, I mean, people had plenty of room. There wasn't anything. It's not like you were being sitting on top of people or something. But man, it was a good solid crowd. It felt good. It felt like there was a lot of people there. So I liked that. The PA guy needed to work a little bit more on pronunciations and
You
more
mean they didn't get
promptly.
Curtis Parrish to do it?
No, it was not
Is it the
Mr.
standard guy
Parrish.
that over there for Lowry? Like, hey man, we just need you here on the weekend. We're
I
calling you
don't
in.
know. I mean, he might have just been a guy that worked at Plains Capital that they pulled in. I mean, Fungi was a really tough one. There were a lot of tough
And
ones.
and he had himself a game. He was a really big part of it.
Well, because especially on in this, the stadium announcer usually calls whoever tackles and makes the offensive play or whatever, and so most of the time people will give you some grace, but this time all the fans knew both players' names. I'm like, okay, come on, man, let's get it going.
Like,
So
have you been to a Tech game? Like, do you know anybody on the
right,
roster?
right. I swear he called Baron Morton, like Brennan one time, something like that.
Oh no.
Yeah, I really think I'm with you. I don't know if he has witnessed a Texas Tech game in the last 3 years, but I did enjoy the atmosphere. Like I said, parking was kind of a pain, but whatever. They had food trucks and stuff set up. We didn't really partake in that.
Did
Had
you
my
get to
fr-
see
I had
any of the picadors?
I did. I sat next to El Conquistador Picador. I sat next to Rob himself.
Oh, there you go.
That's what he should start calling himself. Just Rob himself.
This is Rob himself.
Rob himself here with the Gambling
Sorry,
Gauchos.
you were saying
Gambling
something.
Gauchos. Sorry.
I love it when he does that.
No, yeah, he let us know in the Discord where he was, so we walked over to him. He said he was sitting on the visitor's side to be impartial. So that's what we did. So we went over there too to be impartial as well. And really great seats. Just, I don't know. I did enjoy having it at Lowry. I think that's kind of cool. I think it would be a neat concept to have a spring game because I know they do something like that in Midland, but it makes sense because in Midland, the Jones Stadium does not exist in Midland, so you've got to go to a high school stadium. But I liked it. I mean, you're in and out in a couple hours. I mean, I think people can go that long without drinking a beer. It's really not that big a deal, guys. And then you just go drink a beer afterwards. But yeah, I didn't have any issue with it. I think they should do it at Cooper and Friendship, and I can't think of the other schools in town. Monterey, Estacado, Lubbock High, whatever. I think they should kind of float it around sometimes for whatever can hold 4 to 5 thousand people, I'd guess.
Yeah,
Realistically, you may not want to go to. No offense to Slayton, but you may not want to go to Slayton or Levelland or something like that. But
Shallow Water, Abernathy.
yeah,
No,
like I said, no offense. Someone's going to be like, "Well, what the hell's wrong with New Deal?" I'm like, okay, hang on. Nothing.
New Deal
New Deal's
still
great.
stadium holds like 1,200 people or whatever it is. So
Yeah, and they've got John Deere colors. I mean, why wouldn't I like it?
hey, there's a
That's,
microphone sitting there.
I'm talking.
That's
I know.
how you
I've
feel
hit that
about it.
microphone stand like 19 times today.
I was
Back to the actual game, though.
it was funny and sad and just like you couldn't help but just laugh. Like we talked about it like before. Not throwing a pick six on the second play of the game,
Ooh.
and he threw an interception on the first play of the game. Now, granted, it was tipped,
There were a
but
lot of tipped balls. There were a lot of
there
tipped passes.
there were, which leads me to and it's something I noticed as I was watching it. I watched it. I watched part of it on Saturday, and I watched the rest of it today, or I watched a lot of the rest of it. I didn't finish it. My
You didn't miss
biggest
the
takeaway.
fourth quarter. Whoa.
So I got to the point where they were running like their fourth and fifth quarterbacks as running backs. It's like I think we're done.
We were joking. There were 3 quarterbacks out on the field almost every snap in that fourth quarter, and we were thinking Kitley is just living the dream right now.
Yeah, because he had
This is his nirvana.
he had Jake Strong there in at quarterback. Then he had Cooper Lefebvre from Cooper as a receiver, and then he had the other guy, I can't remember his name, as a running back.
Yes, that 5'11" dude that was plowing through people. He was one of the
Yeah.
highlights of that fourth quarter stretch.
And
can't
and
remember
if you want to run a
Jaden
quarterback,
Morris,
Jaden Morris, you want to run a quarterback.
5'11", 210.
There was that guy that transferred in from Virginia who played quarterback, who's now playing linebacker. Like that's kind of a bowling ball you can put in at like a quarterback power type of thing. Like just hand it to him and have him run.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably a little too like we're declaring the play before we even do anything by putting that guy out there. Anyways, going back to the tipped passes, one, you didn't play with Jalen Hutchings or Tony Bradford on
Correct.
Saturday.
They were
However,
there. They were,
they were
hanging
there.
out though.
Your defensive line is going to be so good.
They're so tall. I mean, the linebackers too. Everybody.
Well, and then like as I was like it kind of expanded from your defensive line to your outside linebackers. Then I was like, there's not really a hole. And I was like, okay, well, your middle linebacker group may be your weakest spot, right? Because you've got your 2 super senior corners coming back in Malik Dunlap and I'm blanking on his name. What was his name? The other
Rabbit?
corner. The other corner that's coming back. Malik Dunlap. Rashad Williams.
Okay.
So they're coming back. Rabbit's coming back as a safety. You got Baskerville in, who immediately made his presence known with that interception on the first play. You got Tyler Owens, who made some plays last year and is stepping up. And then you're like your defensive line, Bradford, Hutchings, Miles Cole was all over the field. Harvey Dyson was making a name for himself. Like, hey, but like he's going to be a piece to this rotation. Steve Linton, your defense, I think, could be really, really good this year. And this is coming from like you don't want to read too much into a spring game, but I'm looking at the guys that were here last year. The not projection, but the progression of some of the guys you've already had, and you can kind of see where they're going, and then returning production that you're getting back, like I said, from your corners, from Rabbit, guys like Hutchings and Bradford is like your defense could be really, really good. I'm still kind of wanting to see the offensive line kind of gel. I don't think they had a bad game. They certainly found some success running the ball, and you don't know how well they did in pass protection because of the way the quarterbacks
Yeah.
are protected in games like this. But
Well,
with
it was always so bogus when Shuck would keep it. Like when he would.
yeah, and like
what good is, you don't know anything.
the quarterbacks don't get a true feel for like when they would have kept it or when they would have thrown it away. You don't get a good feel like when they actually blow the whistle, like would that have been a sack or would he been able to get out of that? Or anyways, offensive line, I think I've got some hopes for Monroe Mills at left tackle, Cole Spencer left guard, Rusty Sotts at center, Dennis Wilburn right guard, and then is it Caleb Rogers? Or is he gone?
I think so.
Either way, the offensive line could be really good. Other things offensively, I think Miles Price is obviously going to be a big part of the offense. He was really highly targeted during the game, and it may be because that was just kind of like you already know that, and obviously it's a very vanilla type of exhibition here. Loic Fungi should be on the first team outside receivers. He was running a lot with the twos. I think he really had a good game. One thing, as always, we'll need to do is we'll need to grab a roster with the new numbers and go over everything because Fungi's wearing a new number. Jordan Brown, the transfer from Kansas, is wearing a new number. So all those things. Taj Brooks is going to be really good. Cameron
Yeah.
Valdez was pretty good. They were a little bit light in running backs. Bryson Donnell didn't play, which is why I think you saw like the fifth string quarterback running. I'd hoped to see some from Dre McRae, and I don't think he was targeted at all. Your tight ends were fairly limited. Mason Tharp didn't play. Baylor Cupp was only out there for a little bit. It was a lot of Henry Teeter. Offensively, like I didn't take a whole lot from. I just thought defensively, like there were just pieces of it, and just like the thought would come to my head, like your defense could be really really good this year.
Yeah.
Or it could be as good and better than it was last year, and that's saying something because you were pretty good year one under the new coaches and the new system and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think Jordan Brown showed some flashes at wide receiver, kind of in that slot position. Uh, but yeah, I mean the defense without your top two guys on the front were causing a lot of pressure. They especially in pass protection. You know, like you said, the line was able to move them a little bit to get some running room for the running backs, but man, pass protection was breaking down pretty quick on a lot of this stuff. These guys were rolling and moving, and being forced into some bad decisions and having
Mm-hmm.
guys in their face to tip balls. And I mean, both of them did it, and they both played with the ones, and they both played with the twos. Like the first quarter, Shuck came out with the ones. It was ones versus ones, and Morton's was twos versus twos in the first quarter, and then second quarter it switched.
Yeah,
So Morton came out with the ones versus ones, and then he had a pretty long series, and then I think Shuck came in with the twos, and then Shuck may have gotten to go again after Morton's quick interception. I can't remember. But yeah, they did kind of they kept it like McGuire said he would. You know, he didn't want twos versus ones, so he kept it that way. But they did switch the quarterbacks and have
do you,
them go with both groups.
do you have any thought of like who you would want to be QB1 in September, or is it just like I don't really care because we've seen both of them do really well. Shuck obviously was really really good the times he was healthy and like 8-1 as a starter. When Baron Morton was in, like there were obviously times as a freshman that he was a freshman, but there were obviously times like his start against Oklahoma State, you're like, holy crap, this guy is going to be good. Like
Yeah,
because for me, like I honestly right now, April 25th, whatever today's date is, like I couldn't care less because I like them both. And like last season, I was like, it's got to be Shuck because Morton's on untested, whatever. Donovan Smith, he's good, but not that great. Not to be the starting quarterback here. So it's like that. It's got to be Shuck. I'm Team Shuck. And now I was like, you know what? Like, it's probably going to be Shuck, or I would lean towards it being Shuck, but I wouldn't be surprised or disappointed or upset if it was Morton because he had some damn good moments last year. Like, I can roll with that.
I do think his decision making's faster, and he gets rid of the ball quicker, or just has like a faster release. But what concerns me with Shuck is the thing that also one of the things I like the most about him is how effective of a runner he can be, just because of his size and how determined he can be when he runs. Could also get himself hurt in that position.
Yep.
But he owned Ole Miss, just absolutely demolished them with his
He,
feet, with his arm. Um, that's what's still in my head is that performance. If that's the guy we're seeing, if that's kind of what we're basing things off of, which we're not, because or not we. That's not who McGuire's basing it off of. You know, he's seeing him every day in practice, and he's taking that in and making those judgments himself. But as flawed as he can be at times, I can't get that bowl game out of my head. He played so well, and that was, a lot of people like to dispute. Well, sure, he's 8-1 or whatever it is, but who was it against? It was against some non-cons, or it was against Kansas, or it was against this or that. It was like, okay, well, one of them was against Ole Miss, and we beat the absolute crap out of them.
Yeah, I
A
mean,
lot of it was because of how he played.
yeah, he was 24 of 39 passing on the day versus Ole Miss, 242 yards, 1 touchdown. Ran 25 times for 111 yards, 2 more touchdowns. I mean,
Yeah, ran 25 times. Good Lord.
he had more carries than he did completions. He was 24 of 39, but 25 rushes.
So that's what, 350 yards on his own?
353.
Yeah. Not
So-
a bad day.
No. And speaking of not having a bad day, we are counting down the hours to the NFL draft for our man. Tyree Wilson is a man.
Who was at the game? Did they show that?
They did. They had
Who was
had
at
quite
the
a bit.
spring game?
They had quite a bit on the are they awards? Or they
Yes.
just recognition, whatever you want to call it. They had a good portion of that on the broadcast. They talked about what the award was and who was getting it.
Oh, that's cool.
But he was there. There were other players from the other team, the past team, like Kosai Eldridge, and then the guys that were suited up, or sorry, not suited up, but there for the team. In the outside linebacker Smith, I'm blanking on his first name, and the defensive tackles that we've already talked about. Tyree Wilson could very well be the number 2 selection on Thursday night. We've seen some smoke there, and Houston saying that maybe they don't want a quarterback and they don't, they're going to hold on to their number 2 pick. Which I was watching some, it just came up naturally in my algorithm today on TikTok. There's a guy that just posted a bunch of clips from drafting. I was like, I want to go watch that movie. I went to go find it. It's like, I don't have it. I've got a bunch of baseball.
I've never
movies.
seen it.
Oh, it's really good. I don't know how real it is, but
Does Kevin Costner sound really gruff?
oh yeah, for sure.
That means it's good.
In a position where you got the number 2 selection, but don't want a position that everybody's going to be clamoring after, like you might find some value in trading back, because there may be like just a wild run on quarterbacks when it starts to go, because like C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young and Will Levis and all these guys, the guy from Florida, I'm blanking his name, Anthony Richardson, where guys may get drafted above their rankings because enough people want a quarterback, and it's kind of a thin, like you've got like a real top tier group here. But it's possible that Tyree Wilson could go 2nd overall, which is just absolutely phenomenal. He could go, depending on the board you look at, the teams that need some help on the defensive front, maybe down to 10th. But man, you're talking about another Texas Tech defensive player being drafted in their first round. You had Jordan Brooks not that long ago. Tyree Wilson could be a top 10 pick, could be top 5. It's just phenomenal. We're super excited to see where he goes and which team he goes to, and what other NFL team's going to pick up some fandom here in Lubbock. Excuse me. I'm trying to avoid like belching into the microphone. I'm kind of failing a little bit.
Well, we just got the
I mean, it wasn't like
remnants
a
of it.
bleh. It was
Yeah.
kind of a hiccup. But anyways, NFL draft starts on Thursday. He's a guy that's for sure going to hear his name called Thursday night. Another guy that I think is kind of interesting to kind of follow, because everybody knows how dangerous and not dangerous, but very risky and very hardly ever works out drafting a running back in the first round. But Bijan Robinson is getting a ton of love, deservedly so, right? Like, he's phenomenal. But the team that's going to draft him is going to overpay for him, and it was going to be super. Just another, data point. Like, you shouldn't draft a running back in the first round when he gets hurt, or here in a couple of years his production drops way off. I don't have any other thoughts on the draft. I don't really know what the Cowboys need. besides some help defensively.
Yeah, I got nothing.
They may need a running back. And I don't think they're in a position to take Robinson, but you're not in a position where like the Cowboys need a running back that badly. They'd go after Robinson. But interesting name I heard from the Gauchos thrown out was like, if Roshan Johnson's available, like, would you take him in like the 5th round? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, yeah, he's a bulldozer. We've seen it firsthand.
So, is he an every down back? No, but I mean, he could probably really complement Tony Pollard. Like, you get him and Roshan Johnson. I think that could be a pretty good backfield.
Yeah.
But I'm not Stephen Jones or
Well,
Jerry Jones.
and the Joneses have a habit of watching Big 12 football.
They want or regional football because they'll also take
Yeah.
some from like
Oh, that's true.
the SEC West.
Yeah, I don't mean to limit to the Big 12, but I mean, yeah, obviously pretty big fans of Texas Tech sometimes, Texas, Oklahoma State, OU. Yeah, they watch regional football. I always like that about the Cowboys. They usually have at least a couple of quote unquote local guys on just about any given year.
Yeah. All right, we are going long. We're not going to go to 2 hours tonight. I promise you not. I promise you're not going to do that. We're going to get to what do we learn and wrap this up. So let's see if this works, and we'll wrap it up, man. What do you say?
Let's do it.
What did we learn, Palmer?
I don't know, sir.
I don't know either.
Well, look at that. It worked. I
Hell
wonder
yeah, it did.
if the other one didn't work because it's a wrong audio format, which I could just need to go update. Anyways, I will give 2 quick updates. Going yard, I started watering the Bermuda seed. It's down. It's being watered. We're a few weeks away from having Bermuda lawn. The problem, really quickly, is I had sprayed Roundup on the remaining ryegrass. That's what I had. And I guess I had some dormant ryegrass because once I started watering, like the yard greened up. I was like, hold up. I sprayed you with Roundup twice. You're supposed to be dead. So we're just gonna cut the ryegrass with the Bermuda. I'm not spraying it again. I was getting frustrated with that, and it'll eventually die. It's not supposed to be a perennial grass, anyways. Behind the dish. Well,
Oh, boy.
Little league umpiring update.
Injury update.
Thursday night injury update. Thursday night, I I called a juniors game, which is middle school. It's one of the upper divisions in Little League baseball. There is a seniors division, which is high school, but there's a lot of guys playing for their high school, and they're not out of Little League anyways. Like, nobody seriously playing senior baseball in Little League. Juniors is like one of the last ones. These are basically teams that are looking to play together between their travel tournaments. Anyways, they're pretty good. I got asked to help out with that division since I was free on that night. I took a pitch, smoked me right in the back of the hand, and like it immediately swelled up. I had an imprint of laces on my hand from when it hit me. I went to the doctor the next morning to get x-rays to make sure it wasn't broken. It wasn't. I can actually
How far
use
into
my
the game was it?
Oh, it was early. We were
Oh,
still
no.
we were still in the first. I don't think it was the first inning, but it was the first time through the lineup for the team, for the home team. So bottom of the first, maybe bottom of the second, and we played 5 innings that night. All right, we say we. They played 5 innings. Thursday was pretty sore. Friday, I could barely close my fist. Like, my hand was so sore. It was so swollen. It's still pretty swollen. You won't be able to see it so much. It's still pretty swollen. It didn't bruise up like the doctor said it would. I went to shake somebody's hand today, and like that person that shakes your hand, their thumb lands right on the back of my hand where it hurts. It's like, yeah, I'm done shaking people's hand for a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
'Cause
can you even do the fist pump?
Well, I could do that. So I went to my nephew's baseball game. It was the last baseball game of their high school season, and I shook their hands. And of course, they're high schoolers. They're trying to be all macho. They just played a game. They're giving pretty firm handshakes. Like, holy crap, dude, that hurt, because they were like just hit, like their thumb was landing right on that sensitive area in the back of my hand. It was
Do the COVID elbow. or whatever
COVID, or
that
the
was.
people's elbow. That's what it
The
felt like.
people's COVID elbow.
Bump. But yeah, so like I said, not broken. It would have been the bone, the metacarpal, the long bone in the hand behind your finger before you get to the wrist bones. The doctor said it's actually pretty difficult to break that second finger, your pointer finger, that bone. That same bone on your pinky side, on the outside of your hand, is actually fairly fragile. That's the bone I've broken in my foot when I've broken that bone. I've broken that bone. I'm on the mend. Like I said, I can use my hand. Shaking hands is a no go. And when I was at the doctor, he's like, "So when's your next game?" I was like, "It'll be Monday night." He's like, "You should be okay." I was calling and I'd worked this out beforehand, before this even happened. But I requested with my assigner to drop down and do some farm games, which are the 8 and 9-year-olds. It's like I've called a lot of like the older kids, like the 10, 11, 12-year-olds, and they like I've called a lot of the same teams a lot. Like they've seen me a lot. Like they need to see somebody else. I want to see somebody else. And so I was like, hey, I'm okay going down to farm for a little bit. I'm like, okay, we'll put you at farm. Monday night, I had one of the games. Like I hate calling these type of games. Like the pitchers, 8, 9-year-old, they couldn't hit the strike zone, and like
Oh man.
they're like, it's hard enough to even call like a good strike zone with kids that young. Like it fluctuates so wildly between a kid that's 4 feet tall versus a 5'10" 9-year-old. Just not sure. They don't have a 5'10" year. But anyways, so like it's already like your zone already fluctuates a lot because just the size of the kids are so different. But when they're that young and it's their first division of kid pitch, like you try to give them a little bit more room on the outside. It's a more of a generous strike zone. But like once you start going out past the guidelines of like if it's over home plate the strike, once you start adding like if it's a ball outside or if it's whatever, you get super inconsistent. Like I really try not to do that because I'm not consistent enough to call a very good big strike zone. I swear, man, there was like one hit all game, and so it was one of those games where like everything, it was all like everything that happened in that game I called as a home plate umpire. It was a strikeout, a walk. Like there were so few plays out in the field. It's like I absolutely hate games like this because they didn't have enough good pitchers to get the other team to put the ball in play.
And so there was some parent out there just umpire, just make it all about him.
I try not like it. There, I didn't hear any complaints. Like
Good.
there was there was like one or two pitchers. They were like, "Whoa, what was that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I probably
It was in
missed
the
that."
dirt.
Well, yeah, it was close. It would have probably been low, but like, I mean, when these kids are 8 years old and they're 4 feet tall, like their bottom of the zone is like just a few inches off the ground as it is. And when I hear the ball hit the dirt behind the plate, it's like that may have actually been a strike. Anyways, I hate. I've got more farm games Thursday night, Saturday, and then all of next week, Monday and Thursday. But I've already talked about it. I've already used the proceeds to purchase my my Blackstone. It arrived.
That's right.
God, I haven't unpacked it.
You need to savor that.
I'm gonna confess something to you, Michael. I'm not as strong as I used to be. We have a video doorbell. We have a video. The FedEx man carried this to my front door and put it down. I walked outside. I could barely drag the stupid box, which is, I think, like 120, 130 pounds because it's a 36-inch cast iron griddle, right? Plus everything else that's in the box. I was shamed by the FedEx man on my doorbell cam that I could hardly move this thing. I haven't set it up yet because I need to clean off my patio, and then to do that, I need to move the scrap lumber from all the crap that was on the shed. Anyways, I'm looking forward to it. I'm taking recommendations for needed and actual good accessories and tools. I've got like a good scraper. I've got like a cover. I need to get the hard cover. I also, because I've never had a gas grill, need to figure out the buying of propane and how that process works. I've never had to do it. So I don't know how this works. And then
Well,
I'm,
you just go. That's a good point. I don't really know how it works either because I grew up before the gas bottle exchange existed, and we just had a propane guy. Because one of our old farm trucks ran on propane, so I grew up with it. And my grandma's house, she had a giant propane tank in her yard, and that's what she used to heat her home, and to use the stove and all that kind of stuff because she lived way out of town. So I grew up with propane just being around. It wasn't that big of a deal. And then, I moved into the city, and I still have my old propane tanks from Dad. And so I would go to the propane place over behind Pedro's Tamales and just have them fill my tank. But I think most people just get a tank, and you can exchange it like in a ton of places outside of convenience stores and Walmarts. I'm sorry, it's one of the many city things I have yet to kind of learn, even though I've lived here for 20 years.
it's definitely a gap in my knowledge. And from what I've heard, I should probably get two, so I always have one full on hand. So once one's
True.
empty, I can hook up the second one and then exchange the empty one. So I always have it on hand, so I'm not running out in the middle of a cook. Apparently, very few of them come with like actual gauges on them that tell you how much is in the tank,
Also true.
which is a glaring oversight in my opinion. Like, why would you not want to know how much is in that tank? As someone's never like actually used propane, I don't know the weight of these bottles just yet. Like, oh, that's a full tank. That one's actually really empty, or it's gonna sound like this when you turn it on.
Yeah,
So-
you can kind of tell it actually jostles around a little bit, and yes, it definitely weighs a lot less once it starts running low. But you're not over there picking it up, messing with it while you're cooking.
Well, no, it's
think
supposed to be
getting
like
two is the exact
attached and hung up on the grill. And anyways, so I've got that. I've got the seasoning stuff. I'm ready to go. I'm excited to get it going. I just haven't set it up yet. I haven't cleaned off the patio to do it. But proceeds from umpiring games as provided for me to get into the griddle gang, and I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I touch base on something that also kind of brought me down a peg as far as strength issues. I forgot. I think years ago we bought a king bed. We'd had a queen bed for forever. And then we were like, we're going for it. Let's do a king bed. And so we got it delivered. Guy shows up to the house. Box springs on a king bed, of course, you have two. So it's basically two twin size box springs side by side. But the guy shows up to the house and it's just him. And I don't think I was here. I don't remember, but it still demoralized me anyway. Brought in the king mattress by himself. Have you ever? I mean, that's like, I used to deliver mattresses. Now they were Tempur-Pedics too, and so delivering a Tempur-Pedic mattress, especially outside of the box, is kind of like corralling a dead body. It's just, there's no form to it. It's just wherever. Now ours wasn't a Tempur-Pedic, but it's still, those king size mattresses are massive. And this guy, oh, I got it. I'm like, okay, brother, but he did just manhandle it by himself all the way to our back bedroom, down hallways, all this other stuff. And I was like, yeah, there's no way in hell I could have done that.
I've not had a king bed. I've slept on king bed obviously several times, but we don't own one. I want to, not because we need the size between us, because Samantha's not a big girl, which I'm thankful for that. It's not just me that like I take up all the bed and just she has this little tiny space. And anyways, weird tangent. Sorry. We've
Game
talked about it
changer,
because we've got dogs that like to sleep in the
Yes.
bed with us. And the older dog, she's thankfully stopped getting up on the bed, because she needs a lot of help to get up into the bed now. And we've actually trained her just out of saying no a bunch, that she just sleeps on her little pallet next to the bed. She has like this old comforter. It's always been hers. She's always had as her bed, but we've always talked about having a king size bed, one, because like we can have space to kind of stretch out and do whatever we want, so we not disrupt the other person. But also if we have dogs in the bed with us, the younger dog actually will sleep with Grayson or in the hallway between everybody. 'Cause she's a herding dog, and like her
Oh,
instincts, like she
yes.
has to know where everybody is. So she sleeps legitimately in the hallway where she can see everybody from where their rooms are supposed to be. Like, okay, I know Grayson's in this room. I know Hayden's in this room. Samantha and Spencer back there. Like she's in the middle of everything. She knows where everybody's at. The older dog wants to sleep in the bed, like pushed up against you, either on your back or against your legs,
Yeah.
like dog. But she's not in the bed anymore. So
Our
We
cat
talked
will do
about
that
it.
sometimes.
we talked about it. All right, Michael. What else have you learned?
I have learned a couple of things. Okay, so my pal Ace Man came into town, and pal is that's not even right. He's it's much more than that. I've known the guy since like 1998, so it's been a while. Went to college together. Went to South Plains together. Went to Texas Tech together. He's got his physical therapy degree from Tech. He's Dr. Ace Man technically. So anyway, he came into town. We got to go see Turnpike Troubadours on Friday,
Nice.
which kicked all sorts of ass because I cannot think of many concerts because we've been to a lot of concerts together. And neither of us could think of a concert where the crowd was in it that much the entire time, and that made it so much more fun because, and they weren't rowdy or annoying or anything. They were just singing to every song, not in an annoying way either, like some of those Taylor Swift videos you hear. But everybody was just pumped. It was awesome. Good job, Lubbock. That they will definitely come back. And I think part of that was because I don't think Turnpike's been here since 2016. It was almost exactly 7 years. So glad to see all of that. That was a lot of fun. A couple other things we did. I took him to a couple places to eat. We wanted to go to Cap Rock Friday night before the concert, but the wait was like an hour and a half because, of course, it was. It's 5:30 on a Friday. It's already
It's to
insane.
be
So we
understood.
went to Ike's. Yeah,
Been there.
went to Ike's. That was good. Like that place. That's one of our go-tos. Walked right in, got a table. Went to Rain Cafe for breakfast. Saturday morning, underrated spot on 50th, in my personal opinion. Had a pork chop. It was really good. And then he actually he went back home that evening. And so my wife and I went to Italian Garden, which, man, I just feel like every time it's so good. And I tried different things. I had like this spicy, forgot what it was called. I butchered the name. Actually, I had to do that thing where I pointed at it.
Oh no.
Because it was like abadado or abrigata or medulla oblongata. I don't remember what it was, but it was a penne pasta with a spicy marinara. And okay, to you it may not have been that spicy, but to the old boy over here, his head was sweating. It was good though. It was really good. So we enjoyed that. I just wanted to have a shout out to local Lubbock restaurants, and so I was glad to take Adam to go see those, or to go to Ike's and Rain. And then the other thing, I know you want to mention something else, but I'm sorry. One last thing. Friday I had the day off, and I keep getting these emails. I am, a fast food app addict. I'm trying to quit. So I have the Taco Bell one, and I'm always getting emails, come try the breakfast, 15% off today if you this or that or whatever. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. So I took our kindergartner to school. I put in an order, and it was like 7:45 or whatever. And it accepted the order. I'm like, okay, great. I'm going to get 15% off, and I'm finally going to try one of these breakfast Crunch Wraps because I love Crunch Wraps. And I get over to the Taco Bell, and I'm not going to say which one because fast food people are backbones of our country. And I don't want anybody getting in trouble. So anyway, I pull into the one I pulled into, and it was $7.50, I guess, by that point. Pull up to the window, nothing. Absolutely nothing. There's one car in the parking lot, and I'm thinking this is a bad sign. And so I talked to not the window. I talked to the speaker for a while, and finally, okay, I'm just going to go up to the window. So I go up to the window. I see like one or two people in there. And finally, someone comes over to the window holding a wad of cash. Like they're obviously not open. They are getting the place open. And she just opened the window long enough to say, "We don't open till 8:15," and then closed the window. I was like, 8:15.
I wonder if they were like, if they're running behind, like it's gonna be a few minutes before we're open.
That's
Going.
what
Like,
it
we're supposed to be open at 8, but we're not gonna be open by 8.
Yeah, and so I was like, well, I'm not going to sit in the parking lot for 25 minutes. So I had canceled my order. So Taco Bell breakfast is now my white whale. That's why I'm saying to call me Ishmael here on the little screen. Because they all the time, it's like, come eat our breakfast. There's all these
But
coupons and
why
all these
would-
things.
Why would you
but
not
they
be
send
open for
them out.
breakfast?
Well, yeah, be open, and two, they send out all these coupons at like 7:30 in the morning. Like, guys, I've already figured out breakfast, or I can't like shift my day at 7:30 and be like, oh yeah, you know what? I do have time to get breakfast on the way to work. No, it's like I'm just getting out of the shower. I'm not checking my email for fast food breakfast stuff. So anyway, someday I'll try it.
So I've had some issues with the Taco Bell app as well, and what it's been is like, obviously, like they're just as notorious for having like their icy slushy machine, whatever they call it, the Fruitista Freeze machine down, but they'll certainly take your order for it. And then you get to you get to the restaurant to pick up your order. Like, oh, by the way, you can't pick up your freeze because our machine's not working. We're going to substitute a soda for you. Like, that freeze was like $5. That soda you're going to give me is like
Yeah.
90 cents. Okay, like
Well, and
you need a refund or change it or something.
That's another thing that they constantly push down your throat, like, get a free freeze if you spend $1 or whatever, or use this to get your free. And I never get it because I don't
It's never
usually
working.
want that. I usually, anyway, yeah. And then Whataburger had this weird thing today where apparently it was double points day, but not for me. What the hell? They have no offers anymore. Their app sucks now. I'm kind of done with it. I see you.
I got Whataburger.
If you're getting Whataburger for a family of 5, as you might be, it may not take you 18 months to earn enough points for an actual Whataburger.
And
But for me, it's me just usually getting it lunch like once every couple weeks. It's gonna take me until my kid's in college before I can pay for a double meat Whataburger with 1,200 points with $120 worth of Whataburger.
I was explaining to Samantha like how they recently changed their reward system. It went from like visits, which you could very obviously like you could mess
get a
that
small
system
fry.
up.
That's a visit.
Yeah. And you'd get a reward every 5 visits. Now, like, it's based on how much money you spend. But they also had that transition period where they took how many rewards you had in the bank and just kind of gave you points for it. I don't want to tell you how many points I have, but we got a shake with my meal tonight.
You got a phone call from the president.
Like, sir, you need to spend some of your rewards. It's like my office saying, Spencer, you need to take some of your PTO and get the hell out of here.
You're answering this call from Chicago. Sir, it's Mr. Whataburger on the line.
Really quick, so going back to your Italian garden thing. I don't know if you guys are part of anybody locally or part of the LBK Foodies group on Facebook. There's been a lot of love for Benito's recently, a new
How have
Italian
I missed
restaurant.
this? Where is it? I'm going to look it up.
I don't know, but I want to go. Like the menu looks great. They've had some rave reviews, and as one is to do in this town, they blow up a restaurant right when it first opens. Benito's is going to make their first several years worth of revenue here in the next few weeks. Like I said, been getting really good reviews. I want to go check it out. But that's it for me, man. I don't know
Same
what
here.
else you got. What else you want to talk about? I say we wrap it up. I said we were going to go 2 hours. We're at 146, 147. So yeah, let me see if this works. Otherwise, I have to do it in post. Doesn't look like it's going to work, which is fine. I can handle that on my own. But that'll do it for us on the 23 Personnel Podcast. Covered baseball. You need to get the series win, if not more, this weekend versus Kansas State. You need to avoid Abilene Christian and Sam Houston State. We are rooting for our boy, our man, excuse me, I've done that twice now, Tyree Wilson, to do super well in the NFL draft on Thursday. Spring game. I didn't tell you this, Michael. Spring games are stupid. We need to move to a new format, a spring exhibition game or something. I don't know. It's got to be different. Besides all the stuff we talked about in the football section, I was just like, it needs a change, and that's it's bad. I can't stand it, dude.
Maybe we can propose the spring game change next week.
Yeah, sure.
What would our
and we'll talk about that next week. But that'll do it for us in 23 Personnel Podcast. For Michael, I'm Spencer. We'll catch you guys next time.